When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
We're so done with New Year, New You. This year, it's more you on Bumble. More of you shamelessly sending playlists, especially that one filled with show tunes. More of you finding Geminis because you know you always like them. More of you dating with intention because you know what you want. And you know what? We love that for you. Someone else will too. Be more you this year and find them on Bumble.
Hello, it's Gareth. Welcome along to the Somewhere on Earth podcast from the Evergreen podcast community. It is Tuesday, the 18th of February, 2025, or at least it is as I record this wee podcast pre-intro. And in London this week for a change. We're quite often in London. Here we go. And with us today for some good company and expertise and to stop me going mad in here on my own, it's Gillian Boddington. Hello.
Hello, Gareth. It's lovely to be with you again. Yes, here. And somewhere on Earth.
Good to see you somewhere on Earth, somewhere in London. And you're quite interested. You've been following the Paris AI Summit, haven't you?
I have a bit. I have to say at the top of this discussion that it is an extremely complex debate, what's going on, what's come out of the Paris AI Summit. And I'm sure there are many listeners even who are actually interpreting it in slightly different ways. But I've been trying to get my head around, as I think all of us have, actually what came out of that and what the difference is in the approaches that are occurring in the different parts of the world.
Right. Well, can we step through some of those very briefly? Like, say, how China differs from contrast to the United States, compared to Europe, compared to anywhere else?
Yes. Well, as we know from the AI Summit, which was in Paris, a week ago or so, most people, 61 countries, signed up to what they came out with at the end. But the United States and the United Kingdom didn't sign up. So that's why it's been interesting to try and break down why and what the differences are. And China, as you mentioned first, we probably all know really clearly is adopting a state-driven approach to AI development. It's focusing on a regulation which is coming from government oversight, but it's also completely focused on rapid innovation. So it's got this regulation from the government, rapid innovation, and DeepSeek, the recent output of the very, very fast new AI chatbot thing.
It's kind of upset a lot of people.
Yes. It's kind of proof of that, really. And it has got aims to be balanced on its technological progress, and it is looking at ethical and security implications, but from a government level. With the US, as we probably mainly realise, and particularly with the new US government, they just want rapid advancement of AI, and then they really want to hold down the regulatory constraints. And that is because they really feel that will stifle innovation. It will stop things going forward fast. It will hinder progress. And they've got some good points there, but we know there's a lot of issues that maybe do need to be regulated. So there's a balance there that's not quite caught in the ethical debate in the same way. Whereas the UK, we've all been a bit less clear about. They haven't signed this from the Paris AI Summit. They didn't, like the US hasn't signed. But it's because it seems to be that we're going for a more flexible sector-specific oversight, So we're trying to use the sector-specific regulators that already exist for many regulations and get them to put the AI guidelines within their own domain into place, which can therefore still be flexible enough for each of those sector innovations, still allow rapid innovation to happen, and the government will keep much more of an umbrella overview on security-led issues, the cybersecurity and particularly the criminal misuse of AI.
it'd be so fascinating to see which of those, if any, kind of win out, even if it is a battle between different regulatory frameworks. But
I know,
and yet we're talking about a global technology in many ways. So, wow, okay.
Yeah. And actually, the last input is, of course, that there's the EU and what happened from the Paris AI Action Summit. 61 countries did sign up, including China and India, but the States and UK didn't. And that is really, really focusing on open, ethically governed AI models. And it's looking at coalitions. It's got a coalition around environmental sustainability. It's underscoring AI global governance approaches, and it may be that will be not so focused on rapid AI advancement.
All right.
But we don't know. We're going to have to see across the next year or so. I mean, it may even be faster than that things happen. It's so rapid what's going on.
Right. But there was a lot going on at that summit, and you've summed it up brilliantly. So a whole summit's worth of discussion in just a few minutes there.
Well, as I said at the beginning, though, it would be great to get listeners' thoughts on that, though, because it's complex, and I think from different parts of the world, you may have different viewpoints coming in on how I've broken it down there.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, what I've just done. So.
It's better than I could have done, believe you me, whether assisted by AI or not in my case. And so dear listener, let us know what you think. And I suppose just even if we just make it a kind of binary discussion between does innovation get held back by regulation? And does it have to be regulation or innovation? But can't these things, if you have good regulation, then surely you have good innovation? Or do you? Discuss.
That's great. That's spot on,
All
actually,
right. Let's jump into the rest of it. And coming up today, some important research into AI and intentionality for you this week. In short, we're shifting from the attention economy to the intention economy, the intention economy. So say two researchers in a fascinating and potentially worrying recent paper. Now, we think this is important stuff, especially in that whole context of regulation that we've just been discussing. The two researchers behind the whole idea of the intention economy that's emerging, they tell us what they think is happening. And we're going underground to find out how geothermal heat from beneath our feet could be heating your building. No drilling, no boring, but this isn't boring. It's Tech for Good from CES, and it's right here on the Somewhere on Earth podcast. Well, congratulations, people. Your intentions are now marketable. Oh, yes. Machine learning will soon be selling your decisions before you even make them. So imagine, for instance, you're a tech company trying to harness user data to woo advertisers. Already, you've worked out how to convert attention into profit. Well, now it seems that there's money to be made out of intentions. And by the way, I don't mean mind reading or anything quite like this. No implants in your brain, none of that kind of stuff. Machine learning models can mimic the way we write or talk. They can map previous activity onto future actions. The attention economy then is morphing into this intention economy. And in an article in the Harvard Data Science Review, two researchers say it really is time to ask some pretty big questions about intentionality and how it can be used potentially against us. We've been speaking to Dr. Yaqub Chaudhary, visiting scholar at the Leverhulme Centre for the Future of Intelligence, and also Dr. Jonnie Penn of the University of Cambridge.
It's not purely about your behavior, but how your behavior relates to an existing pool of behavioral data. Because the money that exists to be made is how can this particular person's behaviors inform what we ought to sell them. One kind of misinterpretation that has occurred thus far in this process is that these systems are reading your mind. It's certainly not. That's not what they're doing, but they're looking for convenient ways to alter, or in the prospective kind of economy we're talking about, which we call the intention economy, which is kind of like a follow-on to the attention economy. The prospect we're concerned about is large language models that through natural language conversations, you could be typing, you could be talking to your AI assistant or AI girlfriend or whatever it might be, can kind of subtly suggest and alter their relation with you in order to bring about certain commercial outcomes that you're maybe unaware of.
So where's the evidence then that technology companies they're all vying maybe to base their large language models on intention?
What we're really looking at here is the question of what is qualitatively and categorically different about the introduction of large language models into the way we interact with computers. So the most immediate thing is that the systems are being designed around the idea of interacting through natural language. And natural language provides very rich information from which intention is either explicitly given to the system, or it can be ascribed or understood from a range of conversational interactions. So in the past, the access to sort of this declarative mode of intention has predominantly been monopolized by Google, having the monopoly over search on the internet. So when you come to the search bar, one types in exactly what their request might be. And in that request is the intention can be inferred either explicitly or implicitly. Whereas with the introduction of larger language models as the new interface for interacting with computational systems, and now a much broader space of actors has access to this intentional data, which we are providing through natural language declarations. So if the intention is not there explicitly, it might come about through dialogue. And the second element is what's happening now in 2025, which is the emergence of AI agents. And agents are sort of built on large language models. But here we have two cases. One is the case where either the agent is, part of the sort of computational system which the user is interacting with, and is drawing on all of those interactions, all of that dialogue to infer intentions, or the intention is being delegated specifically by the individual to the agent to perform actions on the user's behalf.
Because in your paper you talk about projecting false intentionality onto users, which is quite an interesting phrase. Can we just unpack that a little bit?
For listeners, you'll remember the day, as Yaqub has just alluded to, when you would type into Google, maybe you still do this, I want dish soap. And maybe over the last 5 or 10 years, instead of typing it into Google, which would redirect you to Amazon, let's say, to get the dish soap, you simply get the Amazon app and type it directly into Amazon and cut Google out of the equation. Well, a large language model would be another step in or another kind of change of where the buyer begins, because they might say to their large language model agent in the near future, oh, can you remember, or could you make sure to get some dish soap? And so the agent will then go off and with your Amazon information go and order that for you. But the reason this is a significant and kind of lucrative change is if you're the first port of call, if you're the interface, the primary interface between the buyer and the sellers, there's a lot of money to be made. And so convert intention, or the idea of kind of coercing intention, it's not out of step with the world as it exists today. You may have to watch ads on your YouTube feed or get suggestions on an Amazon search that are, not to your liking or maybe even far beyond relevance to you. The difference that we're talking about is that when natural language is the interface, when you're having a conversation and a sustained conversation with this sort of agent, you have kind of an anthropomorphic element. It seems human. It seems to remember your preferences, etc. Where do the ads go? The ads go into the conversation, right? And the possibility exists for sophisticated kind of steering in many different ways all at once. It's not someone kind of tapping their fingers in a Machiavellian kind of view somewhere. It's just that we know about AI's ad infrastructure that this is possible, and that large language models will steer it in a new direction that could lead to some perverse outcomes.
Yeah. So finally then, and you mentioned perverse outcomes, I was going to ask about what perverse or non-perverse outcomes might be. So really, what's the big take-home message from this paper is the question to finish with.
For me, I think each of us would have their own answer. For me, in the finance sector, there's a phenomenon called front running that is frowned upon, where a group tries to buy some stocks, and because of the computational infrastructure, another group in a fraction of a second purchases the same stocks and then resells them back to that initial buyer at a higher price. And so they're kind of front running. They anticipate and make money off of people's, in that case, financial intentions. This prospect could introduce that to all sorts of social behaviors. And it could be trivial things like, I want to buy a pair of shoes, and behind the scenes, the AI agent's taking bids for which shoe company it should recommend to you. That's not so meaningful. We can live with that. But if political data is valuable and encouraging people to think about the world in this way or that way is valuable and can be steered, those are the scenarios we're more worried about. And ultimately, I guess it's just the kind of spread of commercialized social routines. Do we really want everything we do to be pliant to these sort of profit incentives? But Yaqub, what would your answer be?
Yeah, I think central concern is that we want to raise attention to is that users are not often aware of the level of information which they're actually allowing these systems to collect. And then all of the very sophisticated ways this information can be used in the tech companies would often want to argue that this is in favor of users' interests. But because of these third-party interactions, this often actually can be very much against the user's interest. One central example, which is very comprehensible, is the idea of willingness to pay, which is that if you've set about to buy a particular tool or something because you need to fix something, then you might browse to a website and select the tool and complete the purchase. But if you do this via a language agent, somewhere in the conversation or dialogue, you might also give reasons for why you actually need this object. And then based on the level of the user's need, that could be priced accordingly. So if it's sort of indispensable to you, you could see a premium attached to that. That's a very straightforward example, and that already happens. It is already a matter under investigation in terms of the competition and markets.
That's Yaqub Chaudhary. You also heard there from Jonnie Penn, and listening to that were Galen and me. And there's, quite a lot to unpack there. This idea of an intention economy. What did you make of that then, Galen?
It's quite complex to break down, isn't it? So I originally was thinking about what happens to us already on a day-to-day basis, really, in relationship to how we're kind of nudged and pushed towards certain things. And sometimes some of these things are quite annoying, yeah. So, for example, when you're looking for a flight, and this whole thing of dynamic pricing, and you look for a flight one night and the next night it's gone up and the next night it's gone up again, yes. And so the intentional data, and then even then they're saying, and there's only 2 seats left, So if it's like push to go for it now, But it's more than that, isn't it, here? We're looking at a much more complex conversation, really, because of the large language models involved.
Yeah, indeed. And as the guys were saying there, how LLMs are increasingly the interface between us and the products we buy. And we're sort of cutting out the search engines, and maybe even in some ways like Amazon and the likes. So people really saying that this could be, LLMs could be the new Google. And the really, there are a few to market already, but the people who really do end up dominating the market have huge potential here. And especially if they're harnessing this kind of so-called intention modeling in a way to effectively, I suppose, sell our decisions before we've made those decisions. So it hasn't read our mind. Really, it's just done something quite boring. A lot of what machine learning does is it's amazing how it does it, but it's in essence, it is pattern matching at the end of the day. It's statistics on steroids, as our mutual friend Bill Thompson often describes it, So, but in this case, the outcomes could be anything but mundane, especially if we are talking about such a profound effect on the kinds of interactions we have with people who are trying to make money out of us.
No, definitely. I think pattern matching or matchmaking in a way, isn't it? It's like AI matchmaking for us. And I think that the discussion in the interview, when you asked about the large language models, the LLMs, and they mentioned agents, future, that maybe we won't be using Google and we won't be doing the Amazon app. Yeah, we will just go to our agent. Yeah, of course, that agent is building up a lot of knowledge of us. Yeah, which could go back a year or 2 years or whatever, and it could re-pull that up. And it basing it on your psychological and behavioural data that you've used many times with that agent, say, across 2 or 3 years. And it feels like, in a way, that it is mind reading or working out our desires, forecasting our intentions. And I think there's a danger there in terms of the kind of the sense that it starts to become safe and familiar. Yeah, that it's actually a co-creator, companion working with us, which of course it can be, absolutely. And that's how designers are using it. That's how I use it for some of my writing work, when I've got particular blocks of work in one agent and I'm just allowing it to use that. Yeah. But the fact is that this is different because it's a slightly fake personalization.
Yeah. And I think that just the last thing I'd add to that as well, the idea that, we're interfacing with the world and with all these sort of goods and services through machine learning agents, and we just feed them just in the conversational style of interaction we have with them. We are feeding a load of stuff on our intentionality. Whereas at the moment, if you just go onto a e-commerce or retail website, you just type the thing that you want, a pair of trainers, and it gives you 20 different types. This is a whole dialogue based on, the summer's coming, or I feel as if I need to change my wardrobe, and well, what about this, and just imagine what the algorithms are doing that, and that insight into our behavior and our intentionality that's going straight to the advertisers.
No, totally.
Yeah.
The more we do the detailed prompting, in a sense,
yes.
And I'm always been advised to do
be
more
too
detail,
chatty.
more detail in prompting.
Don't tell them anything.
Don't do. Well, no, I'm being told all the time, do more, put more, you'll get a better result.
Yeah.
The other thing
Don't
is
fall for it.
that very funny little kind of joke that goes around and saying, don't forget to say thank you at the end, just in case AI does take over the world one day.
Exactly. So at least when it does, when, not if, then it will remember the people who at least have manners.
Yes.
Right, there we are. Thank you, Glenn.
Remember last year's amazing trip? That cute first birthday party? All those photos, all those memories can be freed from your phone with a Shutterfly photo book. Rediscover and share your favorite moments with those you love. You'll be amazed how easy it is to make a photo book with Shutterfly and enjoy it for years to come. Get 40% off orders over $29 with code POD40 at Shutterfly.com and make something that means something.
This episode is brought to you by Nerds Gummy Clusters, the sweet treat that always elevates the vibe. With a sweet gummy surrounded with tangy, crunchy nerds, every bite of Nerds Gummy Clusters brings you a whole new world of flavor. Whether it's game night, on the way to a concert, or kicking back with your crew, unleash your senses with Nerds Gummy Clusters.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, listener Steve Leahy on Blue Sky says, my four-legged friend was paying close attention to the most recent episode in the car this morning with barely a sound. Steve says, contrast that with the We Have Ways pod, and apparently the four-legged friend feels the need to interject every 20 seconds.
That's very
So what does that
interesting.
say? Either about their podcast or our one. But we love that. Thank you,
I
Steve.
think it's your voice. It's your voice, Gareth.
Well, I couldn't possibly say. I'm just wondering about the four-legged friend. It'd be funny if it turns out it's a horse or a zebra or something. He hasn't actually specified it's a dog. Right, anyway.
Or a cat.
Yes, you might want to clarify that, Steve. We're assuming it's a dog or a cat. There we are. Thank you, Steve Leahy, listening to us, loyal listener, and on Blue Sky, by the way, as well. Good stuff. All right. I think we should have some tech for good now.
The rollout of renewable heating and cooling is fundamental to combating climate change. Yet heat pumps often require excavation or bulky equipment which can be difficult to accommodate in dense urban situations. Enerdrape has addressed this by exploiting latent heat in underground spaces such as tube stations, shopping malls and underground car parks. They do this in a way that has minimal impact on the fabric of the buildings. I interviewed Margaux Peltier, founder and CEO of Enerdrape at CES. Hope you enjoy it.
My name is Margaux Peltier. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Enerdrape. And at Enerdrape, we are turning underground spaces from parking lots to tunnels into renewable energy sources for the heating and the cooling needs of buildings.
Tell us a little bit about the original vision behind the product and the problem it's trying to solve.
So we are talking about geothermal energy, and for decades, geothermal energy was about drilling into the ground to extract the heat and leverage it for heating and cooling in particular. And basically in Switzerland, we are the world leader in geothermal energy. We are the country of the more geothermal probes per inhabitants. But basically what's happening is that now in cities and in built environments, there is so much buildings already built that you don't have place anymore to drill or to extract this heat. And the technology we were working on before in the lab, it was only feasible for new construction. And as a matter of fact, we were together with my co-founders and we was like, but it's a pity because 98% of the buildings out there, they already exist. And we just lose our chance to use them to do geothermal energy. And that's basically how came the idea of trying to shift a little bit the tech to be able to doing this drilling free. And that's what we did. And now the vision is really to untap this potential that is really below our feet.
Can you actually describe the product for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So the product is the first geothermal panel. So it's a 1.4 meters, 70 centimeters large panel, super thin. It's a few millimeters, so less than an inch, that we're gonna apply on underground walls. So that could be, for example, the underground wall that you have in your garage or that you have in a tunnel. We're gonna apply the panels, fix it to the wall. Water will be flowing inside these panels. This water is gonna be preheated or pre-cooled, and they will supply a heat pump system that then leverage and distribute the heat or the cooling for the building.
You've mentioned that one of the reasons that you came up with this product is because it's difficult to drill in Switzerland now. What's the advantage of this product in countries where that isn't an issue?
Yeah, so the over advantage now is that because it's drilling free, it's hassle free, and it's all really plug and play. And you can also turn existing buildings into renewable energy sources. So that's really the USP we have in like very dense and built cities.
Do customers generally use this as their main source of heating and cooling? Is it enough?
So it depends. It really depends on the type of buildings. To be fully honest, today we have 25 clients. And we can do 5 to 100% of the needs. So the panel is super large. So I would say in average is around 50% most of the time. Sometimes basically if it's a new building, a very efficient building, we can go up to 100%. And I mean, it could be the main source. But if it's like very old building, most of the time we have to combine several sources.
And would you say that you could provide these to anywhere that has an urban environment?
Yeah, exactly. That's really the cool thing about the technology. We can really apply it everywhere in the world. What we need is an urban environment. We need a differential of temperature. So basically, if you have a winter and a summer, you can just put this and leverage that. And yeah, it's working everywhere on the planet. So
we're always interested in what's happening under the hood. And on the face of it, it looks like a fairly simple product, a heat pump with panels, but I'm sure there's a lot of tech going on under the hood. So could you give us a bit of a glimpse into what makes it tick?
So first we use a specific manufacturing process. This specific manufacturing process allowed us to really have an optimized circuit, to really optimize conduction of heat and really optimize the performance. So there was a full development and full aspect on that specific part. And then it's really on the methodology and the know-how on how you design the system. For example, if someone takes one of our panel and just like stack them in an underground environment, they will never get the same efficiency we are getting, because you have to follow a specific methodology when you tile a system, basically. And another aspect is how you manage this heat transfer through concrete infrastructure. And actually all the research that was held in the university, because we are a spin-off, was based on that, was how it's going to affect the concrete structural capacity, how we can manage that, how we can make it at no risk for the building. And this aspect is really tricky, and that's really what we are, let's say, we are really good at. And we really design the system in a way that it has no effect and no risk for the structural purpose of the building.
That's Margaux Peltier of Enerdrape talking to Jez Donaldson at the Consumer Electronics Show. And there we are. Geothermal energy, there's a lot of it about, isn't there? Mainly under the ground, I suppose, Ghislaine, and a form of turning it into something. Heat pumps.
Yes, it's really good to hear about this, because there are many ways to actually bring it to the surface and to use it for heating and cooling. This is one new way, not totally new, but many of them don't use drilling, which is less costly. But this focus on urban areas and retrofitting is important, because one would think, we can't do it there. We've got an old building. We just have to go with the old way of doing it. Space is limited in urban scenarios, but here they've got an easy installation. It's modular. And what I really liked about it, actually looking at the website, was that this focus on parking lots, garages, basements and tunnels, walls and ceilings, these panels can go on. They look great. They make it much more fun down there, because some of them are colourful and they've got murals on them and paintings, and they can put branding on them, of course. But I like the ones that were more kind of like fun art style things that had really cheered up tunnels and horrible old parking lots, which was really good. So it's utilising existing structures. Of course, the zero direct emission CO2 is excellent. And this sustainability push is very important. So I think we need more of this, actually, and wherever you get underground thermal energy. But you are right, it's probably most parts of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, there is a lot of it around, and not all of it. Well, in fact, not even a tiny fraction of it being harvested. So this and similar technologies could be
more geothermic panels for underground to help us with the sustainability things here, applicable particularly in urban environments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely, because you tend to associate a lot of geothermal maybe with kind of remote areas of Iceland and stuff, but not so says this technology. Right, Ghislaine, thank you. That'll do for us for today, Tuesday the 18th of February. Let's quickly do the credits, make sure I don't forget anybody. So I'm looking at you, Ghislaine, so you're easy to remember. Ghislaine Boddington. We've got our editor, producer, CEO and everything else, and Victor behind the screen. John's just turned up here at Lanson's Team Partner in London, and Dylan Burton's been at the controls for you today as well. I'm Gareth. The production manager is Liz Toohey, the most important person in the team, otherwise none of this happens. There you go, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Hi, everyone. It's Michael Calore, Director of Consumer Tech and Culture at Wired, here with my colleagues, senior writer Lauren Good.
Hello.
And Wired contributor Zoe Schiffer.
Hey, everyone.
We're here to tell you about our new podcast, Uncanny Valley, a show about the people, power, and influence of Silicon Valley.
Every week, we get together to talk about how technology and culture from the Valley is influencing our everyday lives.
We dig into questions like, will we ever get our privacy back? Is OpenAI for real? And how are Silicon Valley billionaires impacting U.S. elections?
The first episode of Uncanny Valley comes out on October 31st. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.